Hello YouTube, it's me, Brittany, and today is my 4th day in a row being quarantined, and so I'm gonna tell you I took out all my summer clothes, and that's why I'm in some shorts and overalls right now, because I was bored, and I was like, well, winter's over then I guess, so let's take them all out. But anyways, we're gonna talk about some things that I think would be different had I been able to transition sooner. I talked about this in my last video as a question that deserved a broader video of its own, so that's what we're doing here since we've got a little bit of time. First of all, I want to thank every single one of you guys who've already subscribed. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button now. This video is a question that's been asked of me, and I answer many a question, so feel free to ask any question. The channel is meant to be interactive, and we're still very young, and we're growing every day. So I want to thank everybody who's been there. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Yeah, so this question was asked to me, and I basically was like, gosh, it's such a hard question to answer, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys right now. In order to use a little bit of my imagination for this video, I smoked a little marijuana. But I do that every day. I just don't normally do it before I record videos. But here we go. So just a warning. So I have basically been asked, do you think your life would have been different had you been able to transition younger? How would it have been different? And it's so hard to answer that question because there's so many variables, because a lot of what I did before I decided to transition made me who I am today. So I would be a completely different person almost to an extent had I been able to transition sooner. But definitely, yes, had I been able to transition sooner, my life would probably be very, very different from the way it is now. In the fact that, well, let's just say 20. Let's say at 20 years old, I decided to transition as opposed to 30. So at 30, I did transition. 20, let's say I hypothetically did. I feel like I missed out on a lot of fun that I could have had in my 20s had I transitioned at 20. So that's one of the first things I think of when I, think about, whether or not I, excuse me, could have transitioned younger. I know that I was left out of a lot of activities with my friend group in my 20s because I was the boy. Or I was not pursuing different activities in my 20s because I was a boy. And so those were not supposed to be activities I was allowed to do. So I know that my social life would have been extremely, extremely different. I dated one person really in my entire 20s, and then I was single for most of my 20s, and I don't think that would have been the case had I have transitioned at 20 years old. However, I was living in Los Angeles at 20 years old, so it would have been acceptable to transition, and I probably would have had a lot of things around me to help me out at the time, as far as counseling and hormones and medicine and all those other things that are needed that I definitely didn't have when I was 30 in the middle of Midwest in Missouri. But that's probably one of the downsides of not choosing when I was 20 to do it. But however, it wasn't really till I was 21, 22 that I really learned what transgender was. So all of this is definitely hypothetical, because all I thought I was back when I was 20 was just a closet cross-dresser that occasionally went out with my friends, very rarely. But to think what could be different, I don't think I would have went back to school. I think that the opportunities that were there for me, had I been a female in the entertainment industry, and this may sound maybe misogynistic, but had I been a female in the entertainment industry, I was a successful female in the entertainment industry as impersonator. So I know the challenges that come with that, but I also know that if you take care of yourself and you it's sad to say, you can be a pretty face, then you have potential to do things in the entertainment industry in Southern California and Las Vegas. And a lot of, I feel had I been transitioned at a younger age, I probably wouldn't have given up on film and television and theater and things like that, because I felt that I probably would have been a better actress, basically, because I would not have had to portray the character, the false character of myself every day. So I studied theater, and I was a brand new student when I first got to New York Student. I hadn't really done a lot of theater, so it was kind of a clean slate, and a lot of my instructors really appreciated that. And then I got a lot of feedback, positive feedback, when I left school, 2 to 3 years later, about how good I was going to be. But I think a lot of the reason that I was successful as an actor was because I spent every day dealing with the pain of trying to be something that I wasn't, and I knew something wasn't right, just didn't know how to explain it. So going into school and getting to be something else other than the horrible thing that I already was every day that I hated was kind of like a joy to me. So yeah, I developed these great characters, and became a really good at acting. But I think that that may not have been the case. Like, I have never thought of going into acting since I've transitioned. The only entertainment thing that I've ever thought of doing is stand up. And honestly, I think that had I transitioned at 20, my stand up game would be levels further than it is now, because I would have gained the confidence to tell the same jokes that I tell now back then, because I wouldn't have really cared. Because honestly, since I've transitioned, that's been the biggest change for me, is that I have this extreme utmost of confidence in myself and what I do, and that, I don't really care whether people like it or not. I feel confident in what I'm doing, and so I'm going to continue doing it. That's the one biggest thing that's definitely changed in me since I've transitioned. Now, I still have definite, second thoughts and things that are going on in my brain, but that's definitely with my dealing with my depression and other mental health issues that I have. But that's all definitely been better since I've transitioned and gotten further along. Gosh, like, there's just so much things that could have been different, that it's just so hard to really like grasp the many things that would I've gone to work for Disney. Don't know. Would I have been an entertainer at all? Would I have followed in my mother's footsteps and continued with education and become a school teacher? I did enjoy working with children in my 20s as a male. And honestly, like, after my first college, and then I left Las Vegas and the entertainment industry for a little while after I got custody of Lucas, what did I run back to? Education. So in reality, had I transitioned sooner in life, I think that I would probably be a school teacher at this point, to be honest with you, because I would have probably followed in my mother's footsteps had schools allowed me to teach. I think that now in my transition, I probably wouldn't have had any issues. And also, if I had started at 20, I would have had 4 to 5, 6 more years of school, maybe, I don't know, at least maybe 4 more years of school before I would have actually started getting a class. So I would have been fairly transitioned, so it would have only been something I'd had to, an emergency. I wouldn't even really, honestly, I don't think it's something I would need to explain to my students, at 5, 6 years of transition. Like, unless somebody asks me the question in class, and there's the question, what would I teach? I probably would have been in a middle school area. So in that case, had somebody asked the question, I would have definitely used it as a chance to educate people at a younger age, because I personally believe that 10, 11, 12 years old is the exact right time for children to be learning about sexual education, as well as sexual orientation education, and gender education as well. But I mean, yeah, I say, like, I think that would probably be the biggest thing, is that I probably would have left entertainment, except I would have dabbled into stand-up comedy a lot sooner, and I would have been able to tell the jokes about trans things that I tell. And then as I progressed as a school teacher in life, that I probably been able to tell jokes like that. I still tell jokes about my time working with schools, but yeah, like, it's really interesting question. So, like, if any of my trans sisters out there, or trans brothers, watch this channel, what would you think would be different if you transition in a later in life, like I did at plus 30, let's say? Had you been able to transition at 20, what do you think in your life would be different? And honestly, like, there's so much. Like, I would have started a YouTube channel sooner. I would have definitely start doing stand-up. I probably would have ditched doing entertainment to become a school teacher. These are just probably realities, in the fact that and things that I know about myself. But those things were lost to me, and I don't regret that, because everything about this video is all hypothetical in its own right. So I'm joyful for the struggles I had through my 20s. I'm joyful for everything that I did in my 20s as a boy, because it helped make me the person that I am today, which is, a super strong, beautiful woman. At least in my opinion. I mean, I've rambled and rambled on, probably because I'm a little stoned. But anyways, that's kind of my answer. I really want to know what you guys think, about, what you feel would be different in your life had you been able to transition younger. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at BrittanyRose2, the number 2. Also, you can subscribe to my Patreon. Excuse me. I'm not sick, I swear. You can subscribe to my Patreon at /BrittanyRose if you feel the need to. Definitely not necessary for that. I love every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and stay safe out there, everybody. Bye-bye.